how many people are directly involved with industry. Most industry runs on either steam or electricity or both. We do both. We have a coal-fired boiler. We generate a lot of boiler ash every day. This ash comes out wet on the saline, and it was costing a fortune to get rid of, and it was making a nasty mess at the local dump. The gelatin manufacture process itself actually generates between 5 and 7 tonnes a day of a putrescible material called scutch. This is boiled, minced cow skin. Lovely stuff. Looks like brown porridge. We also generate quite a number of tonnes of sludge from a wastewater treatment plant that utilises polymer to extract the solids from the process, and it's basically a sludge similar to municipal sewage treatment plant sludge. We're talking thousands of tonnes a year. So basically, giving you a quick breakdown on the physical aspects of the operation, the location. The process itself is probably too complex to go into here, except that we extract the gelatin from the collagen of the hide of cattle, utilising heat, and we end up with all these nasty little byproducts. So that in itself isn't necessarily the major problem, it's disposal of the residue after the process. Considering the site operates 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 361 days of the year, the other 4 days are actually shut down for maintenance. We have a lot of material to deal with. The main ecological challenge is that we face high salt nutrient loadings to the property with the different soil types, as I said earlier. To effectively dispose of the nutrients across the site requires a net nitrogen export. That's the major concern. If we have nitrogen into the groundwater or into the river, we're likely to end up with a blue-green algae up above the bows of the Shire water intake, and that would be totally irresponsible. So, pardon me. Basically what we do is we take this material, we turn it into compost, we use the compost to grow grass, we use the grass to feed cattle, we use the cattle to make our product. It allows us to close the loop. And the grass that we grow, and this is where the sermon begins, ladies and gentlemen. I'm actually was told once by a university lecturer from Queensland University that my approach to vetiver was something similar to a religious experience. This is an amazing plant. It's got phytoremediation properties that are untapped at this particular point in time. We utilise it because it can take up all of our water, 1.3 to 1.5 depending on the day, within an area of less than 12 to 14 hectares. We have 121 hectares currently under irrigation, which means with a reduction there we can actually control the material a lot better. Vetiver itself has shear strength, which is 1/4 that of mild steel, as thick as my finger. It's known as a living lard. It has incredibly high nitrogen uptake. It has digestive and metabolic energy ratio higher than Kikuyu or Rhodes grass. It's salt tolerant, it's frost resistant, it's mold resistant, it's drought resistant, it's fire resistant, it's flood resistant. It's utilised in the manufacture of soaps, perfumes and essential oils. And if I'm trying to sell the vetiver, yes, I'll give you my card afterwards and you can come and buy some. The thing is with the vetiver, it has a taproot that's 3 to 5 metres deep and it grows 6 times the biomass of Kikuyu or Rhodes, which gives us approximately 100 tonnes per hectare per annum of material to extract for the net nitrogen export we require. The vetiver itself, apart from its erosion control capabilities and high water uptake, is very attractive at part of the cattle, and we actually export that to cattle and other areas of the property for a feed. So basically it's a pretty amazing plant. There have been numerous research projects undertaken on our site, and this is where I do a little bit of boasting. We did a number of research projects to compare the efficiency of different grasses and trees. I have bad news for anybody who's looking at utilising trees for irrigated effluent uptake. Eucalypts do not work in this capacity. It was indicated with a field trial in Wildlife some time ago that this may be the case, but given the high effluent contamination levels we've got, it's just impossible to do. Sad to say, eucalypts don't make grade. So we focused a lot of our endeavours into an innovative research program utilising phytoremediation with vetiver, which is Latin name is Vetiveria zizanoides. It's actually a sterile plant which cannot spread other than by vegetative reproduction, so it can never be a weed. Make sure you get the right one. If you don't get the right one, it'll spread. There are other versions. Utilising this grass, we've actually got a program now that's accepted by the EPA, whereby our licence is based on the outcomes in the soil, which is the final treatment, as opposed to what was basically criteria associated with pipeline snapshots. In other words, we no longer have to run our effluent to specific requirements. We have to prove that the soil itself is the final treatment and that it is sustainable. Now, the reason I've got this particular slide up for you, and I'm very proud of it, was given to me, a certificate was given to me by the Princess of Thailand at a conference in China in 2003 on the work that we did do on the vetiver. They're now utilising that work to treat the effluent from a fish, not a fish food, it's a fish processing plant in Thailand, and we're looking to put in a couple of areas in China as well. So what's happened is their work's been picked up and being utilised by the third world because it is inexpensive and effective. I'm very proud of that. I'll skip through that one. How are we going for time then?
About 10 to 15 minutes to talk still.
Okay, good. Now, the vetiver program, I've gone too far. The vetiver program reflects that the end results of the treatment are more important to the sustainability of a project rather than snapshot licence conditions, as I mentioned. Our outcomes-based licence is contingent on implementing agroforestry plantations. We've just planted 30 hectares of mixed species of eucalypts on the heavily sodic soils around the border of the property running beside the railway line. On implementing plantations, vetiver pastures and very, very stringent land use programs, and there's been a significant capital investment to ensure that this does occur. The tree planting alone cost in the order of $120,000 this year. The compost program cost nearly $350,000 to establish what I believe still to be the only bitumen-based composting pad in Queensland. The point I'm making here is that management of GELITA Australia and GELITA in general has invested significantly in ensuring that sustainability and operational resource capacity is maintained. They are investing in the future. Just another small case in point was that they made available $250,000 last year to replace the boiler stack treatment process with a baghouse. We still have a current licence discharge permit for particulates of 150 grams per cubic metre. Currently we are discharging less than 0.4 of a gram per cubic metre. And that wouldn't be possible without senior management commitment to the concept. We come to another hobby horse of mine. The concept of zero waste is not new, nor is compost, and everybody knows about saline soils. As I said earlier, we generate about 7 tonnes a day of scutch, the boiled, minced cow face. It's putrid, really. It's unpleasant, it goes off very quickly. The odour potential is significantly extreme, particularly in summer when we have temperatures in excess of 45 degrees. Now, we've undertaken to compost this material. We looked at a number of options. We've come up with a windrow tonneau. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the process of composting. You've got vertical composting units, you've got static aerated piles, you've got bags, there's as many ways to compost as you can make slices of bread. But we've come up with this way as being the most effective for us. We use a unique windrow covered. You can't see the colours in this particular photo, but we use a fleece which is imported from Germany at great expense again, which acts as a diffuser so that the heavy ammonia content, which acts as a carrier for some of the more precursor like putrescine, osmogenes, butyric, propionic, the acids and so forth, that's really quite fecal in their odour. And the diffusion tends to prevent that material getting beyond the boundary. We've had 2 complaints in 3 years this trial's been operating in regards to the compost operation. This compost operation was actually taking out 7 tonnes a day of this material that was previously going to landfills. There was only one landfill left in southeast Queensland that was willing to accept this material, and they were very happy with it. It was costing us in excess of $70 per wet tonne through the gate, plus $280 each way transport for the regulated waste transport. Now, we've eliminated the risk associated with this material travelling on the roads because in the last 4 or 5 years we did have a couple of incidences whereby the material did spill, and it is a very greasy substance. Not only did it make an unpleasant environmental incident, it made the road very dangerous. So we expect to expand this particular process to incorporate all the sludge from our belt press. Now, if we incorporate that particular amount of material, we'll end up with about 13,000 tonnes per annum of compost. We're located in a rural area. There's a lot of tree farms and a lot of pasture-operated grazing operations. The process itself of grazing has relied heavily in the past on utilising chook manure spread on the pastures to the grass that boost. Now, chook manure in itself is very high in E. coli and salmonella, which has resulted in the death of a number of cattle. It looks like that the EPA and the DPI, I don't know what the equivalents are in other states, but the Department of Primary Industries and Department of Natural Resources are likely to legislate to prevent the use of uncomposted chicken manure for spreading out on grazing lands. There's also a significant factor that every time it rains on these grazing lands, there's a significant wash-off. The first wash carries a high load of nitrogen and associated contaminants into the river. There's some risks associated with the practices they have. Now, I'd just like to point out that in the literature there's a lot of work done on sodic soils within Australia. There's something like, I think, 90 million hectares in this country currently face severe degradation as a result of either salinity or sodicity. It would appear that the use of compost in the remediation of saline and sodic soils is a very real option. Now, there's a certain number of sites within the Bathurst area that we will be trialling this particular material on to see if we can effectively reduce or ameliorate the impacts of sodicity and salinity. And we're actually doing research over the next 3 years to verify or deny whether or not we can do this. But there's got to be a benefit for anybody who has a greenfield site who can make compost, who does have agricultural industries facing this problem to utilise this particular style of operation. There's a benefit for everybody in it. The other thing to bear in mind is we've got a lot of tree plantations around the area, and this is being a form of strip mining, basically. The trees are raised to the ground and the soil is left destitute. Compost itself offers some real potential for ongoing coppicing rather than clear felling operations for plantations. And we're looking at that now, a plantation on our site. And here again I have from the Germans a quote that they'd like me to read out to you, and it is, "This work reflects the company values regarding environmental protection. We live for the pure, prudent treatment of nature because it's nature that makes our product possible." That's directly from my corporate bosses. I'm going to put that in other words. I've covered pretty quickly a pretty wide range of what we do, and I've left a lot of things out. But I consider that if you look at the drivers and constraints under which we're operating, it wouldn't be remiss to call them epic challenges. And when you consider that constraints and drivers for change, be it good or bad, are external and internal. You've got community, regulatory, the concept of ESD, ecological sustainability, is actually written into the Queensland Environmental Protection Act. It's a requirement that we all, to meet compliance, work towards it. So that's a driver. There is a regulatory driver as well as a moral driver to go there, and it's external. It's put on us from outside. The community mandate to operate must be met. If we do not meet that mandate, we can't hold it out. Basically, we found that experience in the early days when we were prosecuted that I started this 6 years ago, and when I first wore my blue uniform into town, I was very, really spattered. People disliked the company that much. It's an awful shock, and it's very depressing to think that because you're going to work, that people are going to dislike you because of the uniform you wear. That's changed in the last 6 years. Nobody wants to go there now. Nobody ever wants to go back to that. Now, I've also mentioned in the way of drivers, we have a physical driver, insofar as the rainfall and climatic conditions determine our operation sustainability. We have to get more efficient in our water use. But we're also having to meet social and community demands to be seen to be taking a hit with the irrigators. The irrigators have lost nearly 100%, have actually this year lost 100% of their allocation to irrigation. When you consider that it's the second largest industry in the Shire, that seems a very unfair treatment. I'm sure that it's similar in other states. All of Western Australia is suffering the same sort of problem at the moment. So we've got physical challenges to overcome. Now, when we quantify what we actually make and what we produce and how we deal with it, there's logistics exercises which push and demand attention in regards to the disposal of compost. It is obviously a constraint insofar as the expense of dealing with compost. To produce a cubic metre of compost costs us approximately $24.70, including labour and plant and depreciation on the assets which we have installed. So you send it to the dump and it's pre-composted state, it was probably $22. We're actually taking a hit on that as well, but we've reduced our risk and we're actually getting a benefit from it in the long term insofar as we're developing a closed loop. I'll come to a very important point now, internal. The internal constraints, well, they're not real constraints, they're probably drivers in this particular case. I refer specifically to our environmental management system, which is ISO 14001 to 5 to go. I'll whiz through. The ISO systems everybody's probably familiar with. They have the most important part of these systems is the continuous monitoring and checking. It's all good to have great intentions and concerns and beliefs. Unless you continually monitor and check these things, you will not get a result. It just takes one person from an organisation to leave and the whole thing will fall over, unless you have these systems in place. So I can't recommend strongly enough, even though they are painful and the paperwork can be very, very distressing, an environmental management system is probably a necessity. And I'll come back to cultural. The last letter in our EPIC challenges. A corporate focus on environmental sustainability. If you don't have a corporate focus, if you don't have corporate commitment, if you don't have a corporate belief, it isn't going to happen. And I'll probably repeat this 4 or 5 times before I'm pulled up. But if your management isn't on side, if you're not committed, it isn't going to happen. I've been on both sides, the management that did and the management that does. Now I'll flick hopefully very quickly through the corporate social responsibility aspects that we apply to our colleagues. I don't actually refer to them as employees anymore. The entire management team of GELITA Australia has undergone sounds like a life sentence, but we've been put through a training course with a fellow called Wilfred Jarvis with an attitude adjustment basically to 4-quadrant leadership, and we don't refer to our people as human resources. From each perspective, they have an employment agreement that gives them literally unlimited sick leave. They can get sick with any illness for up to a year and still retain their employment. It's not abused. These people, the average sick leave is probably 4 days in a year, which is well below the normal allowed or allotted amount. We have had one chap had 62 days, but he broke his leg and had a herniated ulcer, so we would accept that as general. Moving to health and safety, some 4% of the workforce is directly employed in occupational health and safety roles on this site. Safety is obviously a very big concern. Every employee is directly involved in it. They're actually encouraged to participate in development of site programs, not just for health and safety, but for environment and productivity. We have what they call a joint consultative committee, which gives the employees, our colleagues, the opportunity to direct the company's progress over the next 3 to 5 years. They have input to our 5-year plans and medium-term plans to our budgetary level. The Joint Consultative Committee is probably the most important factor for determining not just key performance indicators, but key safety behaviours and expectations that the colleagues put upon themselves as well as the business. There's a bonus incentive scheme which allows for profit sharing between the company and the colleagues. They actually dictate the terms of that. Absenteeism is one of the things that they put in there. If you were found to be abusing the unlimited sick leave rule, you would lose your bonus. Significantly, we don't have people abusing the system. Our employees are actually quite innovative insofar as they also donate a lot of their time to community activities such as schools, netball teams, and the one that stands out is perhaps shown for a cure. I did have a photograph of a number of our employees with their heads shaven, but they asked me not to present it. Now, on that note, this is the charity, colleagues and charity part of the discussion I mentioned at the very beginning. Our sponsorship and charitable dollars, the way that we work it is our general manager has an open door policy. People go directly to him with suggestions and recommendations for disbursement of this money. This last year we sponsored community radio, a local cycling group. We purchased computers for a school. We had some other school-based fundraising activities. We have given support on a long-term basis to local environmental groups, including Voters at Landcare, Logan and Albert Catchment Association, and Carpusters, which unfortunately now is defunct due to public liability issues. It was an amazing mob of people who actually very seriously reduced the number of carp that infested the local river, but public liabilities put them out of business. The company also diverts significant funds to international appeals such as the Tsunami Appeal. Within our staff we have people who directly every year mentor students from universities, represent us in the Voters at Chamber of Commerce, Logan and Albert River Catchment Association and Voters at Landcare. We are the major sponsor of the local netball association and the major supporter of the local youth support service known as Lead On.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. I'll very quickly run through here another aspect of which we're very proud. We do put a lot of effort into research projects. Over the past 6 years we awarded 2 scholarships to environmental students who finished their degrees in one in permanent employment. One is a graduate lawyer with Main Roads Department, the other is an environmental officer at a major networking company. There's been 4 3-month student secondments, 4 exchange students from German universities, 1 master's student from Pakistan, 1 honours student from Nigeria, 5 Australian honours students and 3 PhDs undertaken on the site in the last 6 years. We're currently supporting a master's research project in association with Queensland University of Technology, and we've engaged 2 consultants on a regular basis to help mentor these students and ensure farm and compost operations are maintained in a sustainable manner. Research projects have been undertaken in partnership with the Wallace Genetic Foundation, the Australian Research Council, the University of Queensland, Griffith University and the Queensland University of Technology. Anybody there from universities who wants to come play on our site and do research, you're more than welcome to come and see me later. Now, I'm actually up to my conclusion if I can whiz through that very quickly. My reflections on the road, from rhetoric to results. I've seen the worst on both sides, okay? And I've said it about 6 times today, but if you don't have management commitment, you don't have anything. You know, management people and people management are exactly the same thing. If you don't have it, you don't have it. As I said, genuine management commitment. Without it, it'll wither on the vine. You won't have any corporate social responsibility. It's been proven at our site in the past. They must personally believe in the program, and they must commit the financial resources required to provide change. And the systems must be implemented. Without those systems, such as our site, it isn't going to work. GELITA's management has seen that we have them. The second critical factor is passionate people. People with honesty, transparency, integrity and passion for their work and life are indispensable. Productivity and balance sheets are always better when people perform at their peak. Our performance is enhanced when the community within which we work value and respect us. The other extreme is obviously the truth as well. The company values its people highly and wants the local community to have reason to hold GELITA employees in high regard. They go out of the way to ensure that happens. The third prerequisite factor is commitment to the common good. Now, climatic conditions have meant that shared resources such as water are limited in supply. The common needs and goals are useful in determining allocations of limited resources. We participate in local water forums. We're committed to reductions in the resource use despite significant impacts on our profit. We're a small company, 72 employees with a $25 million a year turnover. A 1% drop in our water usage translates to approximately $1 million loss. 1% loss in yield, I beg your pardon. And 1% loss in yield is $1 million for us. The fourth factor we have to recognise is history. History can't be ignored in developing an understanding of CSR, how CSR becomes part of our company culture. When the Davis family opened the botany plant, a chap called C.A. Jeffries, who was a writer for the Bulletin, wrote, and I quote, "Not only is the raw material utilised to the last least ounce, but waste of power, waste of water, waste of anything is carefully guarded against. Truly, the Davis Gelatine Company are the harbingers of a new era." Well, it wouldn't be unreasonable. It wouldn't be unreasonable to argue that Davis family legacy includes a tradition of eco-efficiency well in advance of its time. We've had long-standing links with the Davis family, and we're one full cycle. We've come from a Davis family to a corporate mishmash back to a family company again. And I just get to my conclusion. There's a picture I'd like to share with you. I think that says it all, basically. That's my office. The name goes right on top of my office. So I believe that the pot of gold under the end of the rainbow is sustainability. Education, research and philanthropy are expenditures or investments that can effectively be carried out by corporate entities when the people who make up the corporations apply the principles of enlightened self-interest. Performance based solely on market principles will divorce an organisation from the community. We found that. It's practical experience, I can tell you, don't go there. Performance based on recognition of obligations beyond fiduciary duty to absentee stockholders can sustain a long-term marriage of business to the needs of the community, the environment and the future. The road to corporate social responsibility begins and ends with the individuals who make up the corporation, and to get to results from Maverick requires vision, management commitment and a business that is embedded in this community. And